The wait's over, Isami. We came to podcast. It's Super Audio Robo Podcast Z, back from our short hiatus. I'm Ark, that's Neff, and this is the show where we recommend you the finest mecha content for your cultural and artistic development.
And we got a recent show for you, as recent as last year, actually.
Yeah, it was last year. Same year as Grandizer U. A good year for mecha anime, I would say.
Yeah, and with this and Grandizer U, it's just like us mecha fans are feasting good that year.
Especially, even if Grandizer wasn't that year, I think this would have been more than enough because I'd say this is a new legend in the genre. It is Yuki Bakuhatsu Bang Bravern. Or if you just go with a full English translation, it's Bang Brave Bang Bravern.
Yeah, no, this is a certified classic, I'd call it. This is one of those shows that you will put on an all-timer list.
And despite how the name sounds, no, this is not part of the Brave series.
Somehow.
And you can probably see how it would probably be a bit too much for the Brave series at times. Good little boys and girls shouldn't watch this. Well, not until they're old enough to understand how beautiful same-sex relationships can be. But that's getting ahead of ourselves.
We'll get into that. Don't you worry, y'all.
We could at least get into our synopsis. We could at least describe what Bravern is all about. And it goes like this. On the island of Oahu, Hawaii, a joint military exercise between the nation's militaries is being conducted to help improve the technology and tactics of the world's leading military weapon, the Titano Striders. However, this is shortly interrupted by an invasion from alien machines known as the Death Drives. A Japanese soldier named Isami Ao nearly loses his life in the attack, when all of a sudden a hero descends to save him. And says to come inside him. The cockpit, that is. His name is Bravern, a super robot that's arrived to defend humanity. For Isami, U.S. Marine Lewis Smith, and the newly formed Allied Task Force, they now have a chance to save the Earth.
Yeah, it's a very simple synopsis, but boy, is this show a lot still.
Yeah, it's a super robot show that unless you are really, really deep into the genre, you probably would not have realized that this was going to be it just from the marketing materials because there's a bit of prehistory.
Yeah.
So some very important background stuff that needs to be covered. Why this anime was able to be made in order to grace us with its beauty.
I do have lots of thoughts about that, but I'll let you get into the prehistory first.
Yes. So Bang Brave Bang Bravern was an original mecha anime produced by Cygames Pictures, which is a subsidiary of Cygames, the company best known for the Granblue series, because making tons and tons of money off of their gacha series basically allowed them to write as many blank checks as they wanted on other projects.
Yeah, I want to say
I mean there's
go ahead.
There's even the bit I think about how Cygames president or whatever keeps wanting to make a sequel to Zone of the Enders.
Yes,
using that money.
I'm okay. Cygames is one of the few gacha companies I'm okay with because they're using their funds for good by funding original anime and things like Bravern, which would otherwise never be made.
Yeah, so many other companies would just choose to use that money to double down on what is already working, whereas Cygames understands the value of having a diverse portfolio. Mm-hmm. And in order to get this anime off the ground, they had to get a fucking amazing director in order to lead the project. And who better than mecha anime legend Masami Obari, which would make this actually the first time he'd be directing a TV anime since the early 2010s. So it's well over a decade at this point, let alone in the genre. The last mecha anime he did directorial work for on TV was actually for Super Robot Wars OG, The Inspector, which kind of surprised me. I'm always surprised whenever I look back at his at his works and kind of realize that oh, he did work on that, when I'm just so used to the very obvious classics that he's worked on, especially in the OVA realm, you know?
He definitely has a very distinct style. And it's surprisingly he hasn't done much after, but I'm glad he's back for this.
I mean, stuff that he's done after has, again, still been kind of in that either working on OVAs or net animations, I guess they call it, stuff where it's short anime that's even more limited compared to OVA as far as distribution because it's only available online. Like I think he did some work on some of the later Gundam Build series, which
Right.
weren't TV anime. So yes,
And
being able to work on a project like this that would be airing on TV, pretty big deal. And even the staff that like worked on this, from like animators, scriptwriters, and all that like there's too many to list. But if you like find interviews and whatnot about this show and like the different people that worked on it, you'll all find that there's actually a pretty big commonality in that everyone that is on this project was excited on the basis that they were getting to work with Masami Obari.
which understandable.
Like that's how big of a deal this guy is and why we keep bringing it up. So what did stand out about the project initially when it was, officially made known to the public that this was going to be an upcoming anime for 2024 was how much it was emphasizing the anime's Titanostriders, these like, military real robot type mecha, which naturally, when you looked at it, hinted at the idea that it was like, oh, Obari's doing a real robot anime.
Yeah.
That's different. But we're smart mecha fans. We noticed the signs right away that something was strange about this.
I have a confession. I thought
Oh no.
I fell for the marketing when I saw. I know I should have known from Obari and the name that would be a Super Robot anime. But when I saw those initial like preview videos and everything, I thought, weird that it's going to be a real robot show. So when I actually sat down and watched that first episode, the twist caught me completely by surprise.
Yes, because the things that tipped a lot of people off, myself included, was, obviously the name itself, but even the font and just styling of the logo itself is like dead on for how the logos of like the Brave series anime typically look. Like it was like a super robot name and logo style that you would expect to see in the 90s. And for my money, I did not guess immediately what the twist was going to be, that there was going to actually be a super robot, the titular Bravern. I simply assumed it was going to be a case of like, it was going to be a real robot show with the pilots like desperately trying to make their real robots do like super robot type actions.
Oh yeah.
So I think kind of depending on like what theory you were going with, you were still taken for a ride when the first episode finally aired and it revealed that yes, this was a super robot anime. Bravern is referring to the titular super robot. It was kept completely secret from everyone, and because of that, it contributed to like a huge explosion of interest and discussion from anime fans. I think like the bulk of it especially coming from Japan specifically.
Yeah.
Like I think there were like some statistics out there that as far as like keywords that were like searched in Japan, it was like Bravern was within the top 10. Like it was a big fucking deal because of how out of nowhere and explosive this twist was. And I guess I need to double check to verify this because this is also related to side games, and I get the feeling that this might not have been their first time doing this kind of bait and switch. But I know that they also put out Akiba Maid
yes.
Wars, I think it was called.
Yes.
Yeah. Did that also have like a similar thing where like what the show actually was completely different from how promotional materials was presented?
No, absolutely. That was another bait and switch moment where all the promotional material made it seem like one kind of show, and then it turns out to be a Yakuza show with maids instead.
Yeah, it's like what if we took like maid cafes, like the staff, and just like put them in like their own version of Black Lagoon or some shit.
And rules, you should also watch Akiba Maid Wars. It is NEF certified good show.
Yeah, that's definitely on the list for the near future because it just sounds fucking insane. A lot of commotion, a lot of interest from just that first episode alone. So much of a commotion that international interest also grew quickly, and subsequently followed by frustration that it had not been chosen for simulcasting on any service.
Yeah.
Like, for whatever reason, I guess these days, with how like Crunchyroll and other services operate, that like we kind of take this aspect of the anime industry for granted, that we assume that like, oh, like if it's going to be a big show, obviously like like international companies could like pick it up to like have subtitles ready and air each episode the same week as it is in Japan. But it turns out no, which is fucking baffling because this is Masami Obari.
Yeah, I remember when the first episode came out, and I just very vividly like recall people calling for subs for this, and it's just a shock that they actually got it. Well, we got like, official not fan subs, I mean official subs afterwards.
I do remember for a brief time, like someone very, very quickly and kind of roughshodly, like trying to put together subs for that first episode that were like readable enough. But yeah, Crunchyroll did respond quickly enough from like all like the demand that like once the second episode rolled around, they basically debuted like the first episode alongside it with official English subs. And then from that point, it was basically operating like it was any other simulcast anime. Which proceeded for 12 episodes as part of the 2024 winter season, going from January 11th to March 28th. This was kind of a surprising thing I noticed when I was like looking up more details. Interestingly, I guess a lot of other anime out there that is like might have a lot of interest writing on it. In Japan, like they'll do advanced screenings at like select cinemas in Japan. And apparently the first 2 episodes had this. So how the bait and switch was still kept secret for like the few weeks until airing on TV is mad fucking impressive.
Yeah, you all have no idea like how much of a surprise this was. Like the fact that this never got leaked, especially in the era of we live in, it's mind-blowing.
Yeah.
It's a little mind-blowing.
Yeah, and the best part is, just from how the first episode goes, it still does not prepare you for what is going to happen from episodes 2 onward.
Oh, absolutely
It
not.
just doesn't. This is basically like just the extent of like what needs to be covered with like our prehistory, because I cannot think of many other anime out there that have been able to like get away with like this wild of like kind of misinformation, except maybe not really. It does feel important that we had to like talk about this aspect of the show, and that even in like the 2020s we're still able to have something like this get away with that level of just not revealing shit and making you think it's something else.
It's just really impressive, and it worked on me. It fooled me, all right.
It partially fooled me. Again, kind of as I had described, I assumed there would be super robot isms, just not necessarily a full-blown super robot. But we might as well get into now like our primary mecha and characters, because this is obviously where like the meat of the show is, and it starts to paint the better picture of like, oh, this is more than just what the bait and switch from the first episode is about. It's kind of nuts.
Yeah.
So with our mecha, because like the first episode obviously has like a lot of focus on it for like the first half, there's the Titano Striders. They're real robot style units, very military like in design. They've got rollers on their wheels, all kinds of weapons, a bit of modularity to them. I think it's actually pretty cool that for as much as the super robot angle like obviously hijacks this initial premise, that the Titano Striders are still able to like get some play even then. They're clearly more in support of like Bravern, who's essentially leading the charge against the enemy, because he's the only one really strong enough to take on the death drives. But you still get to see how like the specific mechanics of it work. It's like a very show not tell type of method of portraying it, which I especially appreciate. Like there's no real need for them to go into like big exposition dumps about like the minutia of like how these robots are able to even function. It does what we always like when it comes to these sort of like real robot kind of mechanisms and designs, where they're like, no, it just works. This universe just allows for it. The square cube law does not apply. Fuck off.
Yeah, which I appreciate. You don't need to get into like the nitty gritty on everything. Sometimes things just work.
Yeah, and just even then, even though it's not like a super robot type attack or whatever, you could still see a Titano Strider like get used in a way where it's like that is damn cool and stylish in its own right. Like using kind of like back tripod spikes to essentially act as a way to like propel your Titano Strider in the air for like a super jump, which you see in that very first episode, and it's cool.
Yeah.
But obviously the Titano Striders are not carrying the show. The one that's carrying the show is Bravern. Just a true-blooded, if not overbearing, sentient super robot. Big, heroic, white and red color scheme. He can even transform into a vehicle, although I guess maybe this would have been overstepping their bounds a bit too much in infringement, but I do kind of wish that Bravern's vehicle form resembled more of an actual human vehicle. I mean, I guess it's still at least in the spirit of, like, most Brave robots back in the 90s where, like, their vehicle form was a car, which makes it very handy for when their kid protagonist needs a ride, while also getting around the fact that these are kids and they don't have driver's license. Bravern is bombastic, over the top, and as you find out very quickly, because he is just forcefully integrating himself into this otherwise real robot world, he is making his super robot isms made manifest, including blaring his own theme music over speakers as he goes into battle.
All the different ways he shows like his little logo and his theme song in world is genius. It's brilliant.
Yeah, it is pretty fucking amazing. And yes, like, because he's sentient like the Brave robots, that means, you know, in theory, he doesn't really need a pilot. But he insists that he does, which plays a lot into, like, the relationship dynamics and subtext. Not subtext, just text.
There is no subtext. There is no subtext in this show.
There is nothing subby about this.
I mean, Bravern is short.
Fair.
I was gonna say,
but yes, it is clear though, at least that, like, with in Bravern's case, even though he can operate independently, he's still only able to, like, operate, like, at his absolute best when he has a human riding in his cockpit, because it is always important, especially in a lot of super robot anime, that, like, you view your giant robot as, like, a partner. It is not a thing you are simply controlling or using as a tool.
Yeah.
You are fighting alongside it. You are fighting as one. And silly and overbearing and, like, very, very gay at times. I say that positively. He's a super robot through and through, and that is always beautiful to see, even in 2024.
Yes, but when we say this robot is very gay, we are not making jokes. The show is insanely gay. We'll talk about it more, but you'll know for yourself if you watch it.
And with this situation here with Bravern, I gotta say as much, he is not the only super robot in here, because his arrival is because he's the only one that can feasibly match up to the Death Drives, who are very much villainous super robots in their own right, with one of the most prominent Death Drives being Superbia, a bluish purple colored robot, basically meant to be, like, framed initially almost as if he is Bravern's rival. You don't know if it's necessarily at the start because they actually have some history, or maybe if Bravern is trying to, like, I don't know, make it seem that way just so he looks cool. Superbia doesn't really speak anything that's intelligible at the beginning, but without getting too much into it, as it goes on, you find that Superbia is in fact a reoccurring robot, and you do eventually get to hear him speak, of which he bears the voice of Tomokazu Sugita, and there is at least one character in this anime that, when she hears it, is basically speaking for all of us in the audience. His voice is so hot.
She's right, though.
And even when it comes to how the Death Drives operate, kind of like Bravern, turns out they do have a benefit to, like, having a human inside them. Although it kind of operates a bit differently in the Death Drives case, because it's less about having them in the cockpit in order to, like, synchronize and fight alongside them, and more like what are essentially human batteries. Because that is what Superbia has at the start. Eventually he loses that, and it's through that he is able to eventually go through his own character development over the course of the series. The rest of the Death Drives get comparatively less development for obvious reasons, because they are meant to be fought and killed in as flashy a way as they hopefully desire to have done to them.
Also, if you want to talk about how unsubtle the show is, Death Drives is an actual Freudian term, if you didn't know that.
Yes.
It means a drive towards death and destruction, which is what these guys are basically doing.
Yeah, they come to Earth to not only just cause so much destruction to like eradicate the people of Earth, but the thing that they're really searching for is that they want to experience a death of their own, and ideally have it be something that is as like cool and flashy as possible. like that. I shit you not. The next one after Superbia, when Bravern fights it, like his whole deal, he does not go down for good because all he cares about is having Bravern beat him in such a way that he gets cut down the middle, that it also splits his tower in half at the same time and causes a big ass explosion. That's his deal. That's more or less all of their deals. Yeah. And on top of that, just about all the names of the different death drive robots are all derived from like the Latin terms for like, it's weird, like it doesn't quite line up with the 7 deadly sins because there's more than 7, but that's the general idea. Like you find ones where like when you translate them, there's gluttony, there's wrath. I think there was one where it's just straight up pessimism. Yeah, just very much like kind of like emotions or vibes that have like negative connotations to them. Yeah. And somewhat fitting for what the goal of these robots named after a Freudian term are trying to go for.
So much.
And that's like the extent of the robots, you know? You got Titano Striders, you got TSs as your real robot representative, and then they're just outclassed by all these weirdos. Fucking love them.
Yes, but we also have some non-robot characters to talk about too, don't we?
Yeah, and we love them a lot, and some of them may love each other. So you gotta start with our protagonist, Isami Ao, a Japanese ground self-defense force soldier who's taken part in the joint military exercises on Hawaii, and the unwitting pilot, or the unwillingly chosen pilot for Bravern, because Bravern seems to know a lot about Isami. And for what it's worth, you know, he does save Isami in that moment, but it doesn't make things that much easier for him for like the first few episodes of their relationship. It only does get better somewhat as it goes on, because I am not kidding when I say that Bravern is a bit overbearing in his attitude, because that is what it comes off as when it's the relationship between Bravern and Isami as robot and pilot, as boyfriends.
He is a very clingy robot, and Isami is not up for it. He doesn't fuck with it in the beginning.
Yeah. In fact, fuck it, I actually have it up here. Like, if you're still kind of doubting the extent to like how we are describing this show as intensely gay, I have right here an excerpt of dialogue from the second episode in which Bravern is telling his life story and how it relates to him meeting Isami. And this is not a shitpost, this is real dialogue. And the moment I saw Isami, I felt something bittersweet flooding my hydraulics, and my instincts told me, I want him to ride inside me. And he said yes when I asked. He came inside me. My power source was on the verge of bursting with the intense pathos of it all. For me, it was my first experience. This I knew was what it meant to be bound together. Accepting Isami within me meant accepting everything. Each time he yanked my control stick up and down, I moved with him. The two of us were truly one. Again, that is not a shitpost. Nope. That is not fan fiction. That is the actual words from a sentient robot telling this to a group of like the heads of like various nations' militaries who are all horribly overwhelmed by this entire soliloquy as they're trying to figure out how the fuck are they going to save the world.
I'm sorry, but actually, I forgot to mention, this show has 2 bait and switches. There's the one we mentioned. The second one is, this is a BL show.
Yeah, because while Isami is like obviously like the target of like this relationship with Bravern, being the pilot, kind of unwillingly going along with it before eventually accepting it, because being Bravern's pilot and fighting against the death drives has the positive effect of basically having him be a hero, and the people around him actually, you know, thanking and respecting him for being a hero, for actually saving other people's lives in this crisis. But you are right, this is also a BL show, because we have to get into Lewis Smith.
Please, let's talk about Lewis Smith.
Yes, so Lewis Smith is a U.S. Marine, so we got our requisite American character in an anime. Blonde hair, speaks occasional English, and compared to Isami, like even before this whole thing goes off, he actually had like dreams as a kid of wanting to be a hero. Like when you start the first episode, you essentially get like a monologue from Lewis before starting like a military training exercise about how he always wanted to be like one of those like muscle bound heroes in like a red and blue suit. And like the reason he's a Titano Strider is because it's a robot. That's the closest he's gonna get to being like the hero in one of his shows, you know. Better than an Air Force like jet pilot or something like that. So it does lead to this sort of thing where, like, once Bravern is introduced and you're already getting, like, this incredibly thick layer of homoeroticism on top of it between these two, Lewis Smith, also wanting to be a hero but not being chosen to pilot Bravern, creates a very interesting dynamic in this regard. And even Bravern is aware of this because he also is trying to, like, help along the relationship between these two as, you know, partners in this war. And then, of course, there's the ending credits, which does seem to imply partners of a different kind.
We'll talk about that in a bit.
Yeah, I love these two boyfriends. And I also love their adopted alien daughter, Lulu. Lulu is what I was talking about with Superbia and the Death Drives, where like they have like a human battery system that gives them their power. Lulu is one of those who gets ejected from Superbia after like the first fight with him and just washes up on the beach, pretty much like unconscious. Lewis ends up finding her, and through various circumstances that, again, will be discussed much later as part of our spoiler section, she ends up being one of the team. And I do mean adopted alien daughter because, like, you know, after an insane string of circumstances, she essentially starts like her like mental development from that of like a young child.
I love their feral daughter. She's the best.
Yeah, even though Isami, I think, does not really like it at first.
I mean, yes, but he grows into it.
Yeah, I mean, when you consider the situation in which he discovers this, I kind of don't blame him. Like the best non-heteronormative family dynamic possible in anime, period. Yes. Not just mecha anime. I'm just calling anime in general. And at least we have like a ton of other support characters where, even though, you know, this is a modern anime, we all know how short these seasons are now as part of the rules. Like, we can't have like as much time spent to also prop up the supporting cast the same way as our main trio and the robots. Yeah. We still get plenty of introduction and familiarity with like various members of the Allied Task Force. Like there's Hibiki Ryo, who's like from the same unit as Isame, bit tomboyish of a girl, but like pretty good with the Titano Strider. There's Miyu Kato, who is the mechanic, the Japanese mechanic, and this is absolutely the one character where I think of the supporting cast you will remember the most because she is our audience surrogate. I mean, she's a very good mechanic, but she clearly is getting excited and saying all the things that we, as people watching this show, are getting really into.
Yes, she's the one who's getting excited about all these giant robots and mechas and everything.
Her design and like way she's drawn and animated as well, but kind of weirdly enough makes me think that she just got transplanted from like a Kyoto Animation Studios anime or something, because she's got enough of that, you know what I'm talking about, like that sort of bubbly moe type of look to her, which is obviously a bit strange to me considering it's like, well, but like not only do we know about like what Masami Obari has directed, but we also know him much better for like his art style when it comes to mecha, as well as how he has certainly drawn his human characters, at least back in the 90s. We've all watched the Fatal Fury OVAs. We know what it was like.
She doesn't look like an Obari character. She looks like she walked from a different show in a way.
And a lot of the other characters, you know, like kind of, they don't bear that like same look, but by the same token, they also don't bear the look of like what would be like Masami Obari characters if he were to draw them, you know? Like, that's obviously, like, in the hands of, like, the other character artists and animators that were working on the show. Plenty of other characters as well in the task force. Hal King is one of them, who's an admiral in the U.S. Marines and is essentially, like, the guy that is pulling the most weight in, like, bringing all, like, the other members of like the militaries that were here for this joint exercise together in order to like put together this task force that can hopefully push back the death drives with the assistance of Bravern. Because as you would expect with this initially being a real robot show, there is some amount of skepticism from some of the humans with this loud, extremely gay robot coming in saying that he is here to save them. And then I guess the last one I can bring up that I at least remember the name of because, as brief as his appearances are, I do love his design and demeanor, and that is Thomas J. Proman. So he's another member from the American side, kind of middle-aged, bushy mustache, very stern-looking, all the same. But it's that sternness that makes it memorable because of how it ties into some of the show's comedic moments. You got to have someone with that kind of straight man attitude to really sell the absurdity at times.
Like, we don't get much about these characters, but whenever they're used well, at least. So you kind of remember them. You're like, oh yeah, I remember that moment with him.
So, why do we recommend this?
Yes.
To get into more detail about the most obvious thing that we could ever say about this. Kind of reiterating, this is like the first TV anime in his portfolio that Masami Obari has directed in over a decade. His contributions have been sporadic here and there, be it either like in net animations or directing an entire skit for Pop Team Epic that is just so much more expensive and lavishly produced than any mecha anime in its time.
If you haven't seen the Pop Team Epic Obari parody, you should look it up. It's incredible.
It's all in 2D animation too, which is the wildest fucking part.
And are we really going to make Obari do even more shit?
Yeah. I have made the joke, and I don't know if there will ever come a time where I will have to hold up my end of the bargain, but I have said to people, like, with a straight face, if a girl ever came up to me and said, let's get Obari'd, I would just drop everything I am doing and marry her.
That's how you know she's a real one, right there. That's a keeper.
Damn straight. Yeah. And so with this being obviously a Masami Obari joint, we all know how he operates. We know Obari likes to fall back on the familiar poses and animations that he popularized early in his career. Unsurprisingly, a lot of the stuff that gets referenced in Bravern comes directly from what he had contributed to the Brave series back in the 90s. But he obviously knows as much that, like, people like that shit, so he has no reason to stop.
Yeah.
And I still like it even now, so it's like, yeah, don't stop. I love that you have... I love that the opening has the exact same side view of Bravern jogging, the same way that it has Mike Gein like running amidst the sunset in his opening, or something like that. I mean, for fuck's sake, we got the Obari pose during the mid-episode eye catch.
That's so good.
Like, no subtlety
None.
whatsoever. You know what this show is.
This is people who are full on their shit, and I'm here for it. Just go for it. It's cool, and you're right.
Yeah. And even all the other staff members that worked with him on this were clearly all in on it and even found ways to still incorporate some of their own, like, traits to it. Like, I mean, this is a very, very late episode, and I can't really say too much about it for obvious spoiler reasons, but, There was an interesting detail that stood out to me when it came to a specific piece of animation, and the reason why is because it came from someone that worked at Toei on the Pretty Cure series. Huh. And that particular animator, like, how she got on the project, or more specifically how she got into animation in general, is because she was inspired by Masami Obari. So... yeah, no shit that she would get to work on this.
Hell yeah.
And the result is an extremely Pretty Cure-esque transformation sequence.
That explains a lot.
It's beautiful. Yes. Go ahead. And all you listeners out there can reset the clock on times Ark is going to bring up Pretty Cure on this Mecha podcast.
Listen, it's this is one of those times where it means something. Somebody actually worked on Pretty Cure for this series, so it's relevant. It's relevant.
Yeah. I always say these two genres need to have more of a connection. They need to have some more overlap every now and then.
Exactly.
It's got very passionate people that were working on this, all with like plenty of money to work with, thanks to Cygames. I mean, unfortunately, I would say it was not enough money that they could afford to like entirely 2D animate all the mecha like in this show. But whatever. It's been long enough since the early 2000s that we are at a point where like most like CG for, you know, like mechanical objects like robots or whatever are handled like very well these days.
Yeah.
They know what animation and shading techniques are necessary in order to like make it work. Although there are some instances still where you do get like 2D cutouts, and even very in the opening, a very, very brief glimpse, I'm pretty sure, of what had to have been animated by Obari himself, of Bravern flying towards the camera as he's about to punch it as it reveals the logo.
Mm-hmm.
But like that's it. Most other times that you see, if it is 2D, is just the case of like, oh, they just drew this still frame because they don't want to spend the extra time animating it with the necessary precision because they don't have the skill for it. But like at least the 3D is fine. And obviously, to reiterate, because we know with super robot anime, there's always a degree of absurdity to the proceedings, especially from the 2000s onward, and that's typically in terms of like escalation of scale. But we made it clear that the absurdity in Bravern's case is in its humor and extreme homoeroticism. Like the ending that plays for the credits is proof of that. The character dynamics between Isami, Bravern, and Lewis are all about that. And even characters in universe are doing nothing to try and misunderstand that. They know exactly what it is. All this is so good that it's kind of a shame that this still had to be a product of the current anime seasonal model, being only 12 episodes.
Oh, yeah. I do think, while it is a shame it's only 12 episodes, this is one of those anime that uses those 12 episodes really well. Like, it's a very compact show, and you don't feel like you're missing anything by the end.
I do agree. I think actually the only thing I would have liked, while still keeping it within the seasonal model, is if they could have extended the final episode into 2 just so it was 13, because I do think the finale is like going a bit too fast for its own good, I would say.
Yeah, I think I agree with that.
And obviously, if this was made 10 to 15 years earlier, it would have gotten 26 episodes at the most, which meant we could have gotten more development from like the rest of the cast, especially in the Allied Task Force, like, or have like all kinds of other funny ass like shenanigans going on with them to further contribute to like the gay vibes of everything.
Yeah.
But yeah, you are right. It's a well told, compact story. It's not like, you know, it's not like what we brought up with Grendizer U, another show from that very year, where like the core story is very good, but it's also leaving so much on the table as far as like what could happen for like a sequel follow up. There's not really any room. I think there's not much. I don't necessarily want a direct sequel to Bravern's story. Not unless it's something where it's like, you know, set in the same universe, but like focusing on something completely different. Yeah,
that's the thing I'd say about this is I didn't come out of this saying, where's Bravern 2? I'm like, no, if this is like all we're getting of Bravern, I'm good. This is enough for me. But if they want to make more, I'm not going to say no to that.
Maybe have it focus a bit more on Lulu this time. Have it because I mean, we definitely know what she goes through in her episodes.
Yeah.
You could definitely make a whole series on her. I think a big reason as well, like to kind of close out like why we recommend this. This is a personal note for us hosts. When it comes to this list that we have curated for the podcast, this is like one of the few mecha anime in our lineup, or maybe the only. I forget. I would have to look again and like check with you for details whether or not this was the case. But this definitely sticks out to me as like the mecha anime where we were able to watch it as it aired week to week. Most everything we talk about, by the time we got to it, it was already complete. This was different.
No, yeah, I definitely had the same experience, just watching each episode as it came out. And I wish I could go back and experience that again, because waiting for every episode was like an experience, because like, what the fuck is going to happen now? Holy shit.
People, for whatever reason, have like gotten like this insane idea in their head, and like services like Netflix have tried to essentially vindicate this by just being like, no, just like put out the entire series at once and let me binge it. But it's like you're losing out on like a greater experience that comes from like everyone like in the community around the world watching this thing as it is trickled out over time and getting to have engaging discussions, essentially, because that is what I was seeing happen. This is what we saw happening.
Yeah.
Is that every time an episode came out, we were all taken aback initially by just how like, oh man, the gay vibes are just not stopping with this thing. There is no breaks. But then you just keep noticing things, and you start to see theories being formed. Theories that when they first happen, I'm going to say at episode 2, from what I could tell, based on what I remember looking through like official episode discussions on Reddit, is that like one theory that started as far back as episode 2 sounded crazy, but only started to get more and more traction as each episode went on, because people were starting to notice sides that, wait, no, this guy might actually have a point. And then to have it be vindicated, which shows that that this show had smart writers on hand putting this together, understanding what foreshadowing is and how it should be used, and being like, no, even if someone guesses it, that's fine, because the people that guess it are smart people like us who know how this genre works.
Yeah, they don't need to rewrite their entire show just because people on Reddit guess their twist, because they're confident that people will still enjoy it. Like, this is a show that it was obviously made with a lot of care and love put into it.
And the weekly release absolutely benefited it, much in the same way that, you know, like, when people were like following every new part of JoJo as it was getting animated, the weekly discussions were absolutely some of the best parts about going through it.
I still don't...
All the more reason why you could tell how people were pissed with how Stone Ocean was handled.
Yeah, at least they're changing their anime model to be more weekly now, instead of fucking dropping every episode at once and killing any discussion. I still haven't forgiven them for Stone Ocean.
Which is still wild, considering, like, all in all, David Productions still put in the work. It's just the release schedule that fucked up the momentum.
Yeah,
But yes, at the end of the day, because we are obviously over a year out from when Bravern aired, the anime is complete. It's impossible to travel back in time, either by, like, you know, doing an actual time loop or a consciousness time loop or whatever method you can think of. We can't go back to those moments to experience everyone's reactions in real time. But it's very clear, we still urge everyone to watch it anyway. Pay attention to those details. Be impressed at the craft put into every moment. You can avoid spoilers if you want, or if you want a bit more spoilers to like kind of convince you like what kind of insane shit you have to look forward to. Well, I mean, we'll get to that soon. But it goes without saying, this is a modern anime. Crunchyroll picked it up. It's still on Crunchyroll if you want like your official release to watch it, assuming it's not region locked in some other parts of the world. No physical Blu-ray releases, at least internationally. I know that it definitely got a Blu-ray release in Japan, but obviously if you go that route, you're going to be dealing with RAWs. Yeah. But I mean, them's the breaks, really. So with that said, I guess we're ready.
We're ready.
Time to get into the second half.
I can't wait to get really deep into it, to really I was trying to think of a gay pun, but I can't. Whatever. You all the audience can just put in.
I could feel that's what you were going for. I get it. Yeah.
You and the audience can make up your own pushing it in joke here.
Whatever. If there's a hole, it's a guy's job to thrust into it. Oh wait, that's a different show. Never mind.
That still works. Anyways, we'll see you all in a bit.
Yeah. Bravern!
Oh, these two episodes.
We were definitely mulling for a little while over like what we wanted to focus our highlight discussion on, because it's only 12 episodes, and we make a big deal about how there are some insane twists and reveals like later on in the series that we're like, we were considering that maybe there are some spoilers that are too much even for this podcast. So we decided to put our focus on stuff from the first half of the series. You know, stuff before things get really insane and you're still in that period of where the rest of the audience was, where they were looking at what was being presented, putting together theories about where this show could possibly go.
Yeah, so this is going to be one of those rare discussions where we don't talk about everything, and we're going to keep some things a mystery for you to find out yourselves.
And we're generally very, very flippant about spoilers when we get into our second half of these podcast episodes. So if we're restraining ourselves on this should tell you as much about how big of a deal it is. So we'll start with like our episodes that we have chosen. We're talking about episodes 3 and 5. Episode 3, Lulu. That's her name. And to give some context, as you know, this is after the first 2 episodes, Bravern arrives to repel the Death Drive invasion. Isami gets waterboarded by the CIA for his involvement in piloting Bravern. Lewis tries to pilot Bravern and is rejected. And then Isami pilots Bravern again to beat Superbia. Also, his clothes disintegrate. And he won't get out of the robot now. Bravern!
The part about his clothes disintegrating is not an exaggeration. He is curled up as like a fetus inside the robot and he's not having a good time.
Nope. Though probably not as bad of a time as the waterboarding,
yes.
Which, yes, that did happen, and it's causing a constant total whiplash in that previous episode.
Oh, it was such a giant whiplash.
So uncomfortable. I'm glad that, like, that fucking CIA prick, every time he tried waterboarding on other characters later in the series, that it completely backfires. It's like the only justice they would give him.
It's very brave of him to try waterboarding a giant robot. I don't know why he thought it would work, but sure, you do you, buddy.
Fucking one-trick pony.
Seriously.
Shitty ass Hawaiian shirt. But during all this, Lewis finds a mysterious girl washed up on the beach and takes her to a motel to help her rest and recover, which is a very weird encounter as he trips over the first time, sees her all covered in like purple slime, barfs it up, shouts Gaga pee, and then passes out. And all Lewis can really say in this instance is Jesus.
Also, here's a fun fact. You're going to hear the words Gaga pee a lot. That is actually an onomatopoeia in Japanese. And she's literally saying beep, beep, boop. That's what they're saying. It's funny. It's hilarious.
And I always bring up how, like, when Lulu is saying like those onomatopoeias, it obviously makes her sound so much like she's Pikachu.
Yeah, seriously.
Also, when Lewis is like taking care of this girl at the motel, he drifts off to sleep and straight up has a nightmare about Bravern rejecting him. I'd feel the same. He fucking had a whole flowery speech and everything, saying how much he has the same sense of justice as Bravern and wants to be a hero to save everyone. And it's like, you see like the shoujo anime overlay over Bravern as he is flustered by this, but then goes, I'm sorry, I can't. It's just impossible. That's like enough to like shake this man, this grown-ass U.S. Marine to his very core.
I would also be devastated if I got rejected, so understandable.
I mean, it made sense why he asked. Isami was kind of not in a good headspace for it at the moment. And he's still not even now.
Isami is like in the wrong type of mecha show. He would fit perfectly. He's like a real robot protagonist stuck in a super robot show.
He is a real robot protagonist, very much on the surface with a repressed super robot side, I am going to say. Like, he has a side of him that wants to come out, but it's like, I'd say he's more afraid of that side coming out, and it doesn't help that Bravern is actively trying to get it out of him.
I'm sorry, just the way you keep saying he's going to come out just gets me. Because of just... Yeah, Isami should really just come out of his shell.
Yeah, we were not kidding, listeners. This show and discussion of this show is going to be mega gay. There is no getting around this.
There is zero subtext. Like, I was going to mention this later, but I might as well mention this now. So, Witch from Mercury aired like a year before the show. And its whole thing was...
Yes, it did.
Oh, look at this. There's like a Yuri relationship. There's a lesbian relationship. But it didn't go as far. It wasn't even half as gay as Bravern is.
The fact that I even remember seeing one person being dissatisfied at how this show's dynamic did not go far enough to the point that it ended in a wedding, I thought was kind of absurd and missing the point when it's like... Bro, they literally did everything else. There's a fucking bit with like characters near the very end that has like the relationship like umbrella carved into the fucking sand on the beach. they are not being coy about this. They don't need to say anymore. They have done all of the work necessary.
And then later on, they put like an image of those two in like wedding groom outfits with Lulu in the middle. And it's like, I see you. I see what you're all doing there.
Yeah. Anyway, back to the episode.
Back to the episode.
After that glorious derail, yeah, absurdity and, you know, like homoeroticism out the ass. This show still knows how to like pull in like the right vibes for what is appropriate for a super robot show, like what kind of emotional beats that you need at like the point that you are in the plot, because this is already like the third episode. This is after like 2 attacks by the death drives, with the first one being extremely devastating, having effectively like destroyed so much of the world, that after the events of the second episode, you do get this pretty great uplifting moment of Hal King giving like a speech to like the surviving members of like both the Japanese and U.S. armies and all the other nations' armies that are there. I know Germany's there as well. Giving everyone like kind of like a big motivating speech, formalizing that they are now the Allied Task Force. Bravern is going to be leading the charge in battle, and that means everyone's going to get to do a training montage as they learn all the battle tactics necessary to deal with the death drives like Grunt's robots, building up stamina, improving the design of their robots, all this other stuff. And aside from like the brief moments you see of where, yes, Isami is still inside Bravern, naked, curled up in a fetal position, while all this is happening, not partaking in any of the training on his own. It's just, we'll just let Bravern handle it. It's fine.
Don't worry, he'll figure it out eventually.
I mean, at the very least, like Isami's partners, like in the JGSDF, are still concerned about his well-being. That you see Rio and Miu like visiting him, visiting Bravern specifically, trying to get him to talk, bringing him some food if he needs it, and I like to bring this up. Never ask a woman their age, a salary man their wage, and a robot pilot how they use the bathroom when inside their cockpit. Just don't.
I'm glad Bravern has kept that all a secret. He doesn't explain how that's possible. I don't think we need to know. Thank you, Bravern.
He's a needy, overbearing super robot boyfriend, but he at least has an understanding of like privacy when it comes to, you know, other people knowing about it. To an extent, I guess. I mean, we saw that meeting in the second episode. He was clearly giving those world leaders more details than they were ever wanting to hear in their life. Yeah. We do get to see like another member of the Allied Task Force get like you see her before, but it's more of a formal introduction in this case. Honoka Suzunagi, who's like one of the operators that's like basically kind of in the aerial command center. You have to see her with like the U.S. Marine like operator that's also there. She's obviously also concerned about Isami, though, and also like what she says to Isami is like kind of like the first sign of like, plenty of other people here that know what Isami did, and even if from Isami's perspective it looks like Bravern was doing all the heavy lifting, they still see it as like, Isami, you did something good. You saved our lives. We're really grateful. There's even a bit of a sense of like an obvious crush coming from her, which is cute considering she would never have a chance of getting his heart. Not while Lewis and Bravern are in this anime.
My headcanon is that she's just the fujoshi in the audience who's like swooning over all the BL and all the Bara men with their tits out.
I guess, but I feel like we already have another character that's in our other episode we talk about who is very clearly the fujoshi.
You know what? You're right, actually.
I mean, I could buy that as well. I could buy that there are more people than I give credit for in this anime that are clearly aware that, like, Isami and Lewis or Isami and Bravern is, like, the pairing. But this does all come to a head, though, where after so much time of not hearing Isami say anything in his depressive fetal position, you get an outburst as Bravern is getting called into a battle. The death drives are showing up, and it's like, all right, Isami, you ready to head out? Is your throat ready for shouting? And, you hear how mad Isami can get. Like, for as stoic as he gets, like, the thing that makes his character so fun is when he gets emotional, that there is no filter on his emotions. They go from 0 to 100, and he is not having any of this shit, even though it is not helping the Isami Bravern relationship allegations, as it sounds so much like a lover spat.
It just sounds like two boyfriends arguing. Yeah. That's the tone it's taking.
Yeah. It's like you fucking need me for this shit or what? It's like, fine, if you're doing all the heavy lifting, then I could just wait this out. No, don't go. Fine.
Yeah, the moment Asami's like, fine, I'll go, Bravern's like, no, don't. Actually, I was kidding. Stay inside.
Yeah. And this is, of course, after he tries to, say kind words to him because he knows that Isami's not in a good mental state, even though the wording continues to be very fucked up. Like, I don't mind if you stay inside me forever. It's like, bro. We keep making the joke about Shinji and how he needs to get into the fucking robot, but this is the first time we've seen one where we need to go, Isami, get out of the
robot already, please.
But he's not going to get out yet. It's going to go for a little bit longer. And what's Lewis up to during all this, I might add? Have we made it clear that this anime has a ton of, like, sexual... I just realized I wrote undertones, and that's completely wrong. Sexual overtones? How about now with Lewis's attempt at CPR being interpreted as intercourse by the neighbors? Fucking, like, doing chest presses that is, like, shaking the bed and, like, causing, like, a couple next door who are clearly having some sexy times, just being like, wow, someone's actually able to have some fun during all this commotion in the world. And it's like, yeah, let's keep going. And it's just,
This anime is single-handedly making up for how sexless a lot of recent anime are. It's just so much. I know I keep saying that, but it really is a lot. And it doesn't stop.
And as Lewis is proceeding with this, Bravern and Isami head out to where, like, the death drive has been spotted. Just like not any of, like, the special named death drives like Superbia. It's just like a bigger version of one of the mooks, and they have to fight it underwater. We mentioned as much in the non-spoiler section that details that add up over time is stuff regarding how Bravern's capable of making people perceive him just to sell the fact that he's a super robot. Like, we mentioned that he plays his theme music over speakers. The emblem that appears behind him whenever he's, like, in that, striking that dynamic pose, that thing you always see in, like, a super robot anime like this, where, like, the background kind of disappears, only to reveal, no, that emblem and background is being projected behind him holographically. And now the latest thing is that his name just shows up on Allies' radar at all times.
It really reinforces how Bravern is just a super robot, just forcing himself into a real robot show with all the shit he's, like, pulling in. And it's great. I love it.
Yeah. And this is underwater, so remember, even a giant sentient robot with an animated face is still susceptible to drowning underwater. It's just real funny when you get him transforming out of his vehicle mode. It is change, brave.
Yeah, even he couldn't handle it.
That's why you gotta wear a mask. Also, you thought it was an Evangelion reference, but it was the Abyss!
They literally name-dropped the Abyss. This is not a joke.
And this is also after, by the way, that they had a straight-up line that is the exact same thing says to Shinji the first time he is getting submerged in LCL at, like, the end of the first episode of Evangelion.
Yeah, so this show is so clearly made by a bunch of adults who are huge nerds, and I don't mean just for mecha shows. I mean, they're nerds for, like, American action movies and military stuff. I had to have this pointed out to me, but there's so many subtle details everywhere when it comes to the weapons they're using, the vehicles, and everything. And it's like, y'all didn't need to be this detail-oriented, but sure. It really feels like a show where they're just putting in everything they thought was cool.
Yes. And it does raise the question, though, which Isami promptly asks for everyone. Wait, how do you know that?
How do you know what the Abyss is?
You, a sentient giant robot who just appeared out of fucking nowhere.
It's a good question.
It'll make sense. Yeah, you watch far enough in, it'll finally hit you, and just like, oh, that's why. Oh, and how's Lewis doing through all this? Well, how about the girls finally awake and fucking beating the shit out of him?
I can't believe Lewis is fucking dead.
But I can't believe Lewis got killed by this feral child after he accidentally stripped her by hitting a button on her plug suit.
God.
And unsurprisingly, when that happens, it only, like, accelerates the ass kicking going on.
Just fucking...
God, I can only imagine, like, again, what those neighbors were thinking, assuming, man, the neighbors next door must be into some primal play or something. This is intense. So yes, Lewis is fighting his own battle. It's not going particularly well. Bravern is doing his own battle, and it's obviously going very well right up until the end. Like, cool guys don't look at explosions. We know this. There's a whole fucking song about it.
Mm-hmm.
But you know what they shouldn't do? Not look at them while standing in close proximity.
Which, hey, sure.
It may be a super robot anime, but it is still reality. It's still, it's like you said, Bravern is still, like, forcibly transplanting himself into a real robot scenario.
Yeah, this is still a real robot show. We still have to go with the laws of reality and physics and all that.
Yeah. Well,
kind of.
Real robots in terms of mechanisms. Yes. I still maintain the theory that, like, these subgenres, like, what qualifies as such, it depends on if you look at it from a mechanical standpoint or narrative standpoint. It's very clear at this point that narratively this show is super robot through and through.
Yes.
But how convenient with the explosion as it propels Bravern away from the battle in the direction of Lewis's motel, crashing into the room, and the neighbor's room, by the way, which has them running out naked. Isami falls out, pissed off, seeing what is going on. Lewis is, like, down to his shorts. The girl is naked. Isami's naked, falls out covered in green slime. Everyone's pretty much naked.
And Asami is so mad. He is so angry at this entire sequence.
And we also have her name now. It's Lulu. She'll be talking like Pikachu for a little while at this point, because now she has gone from completely feral, trying to kill him, to, like, something happened. Lewis pressed something that just caused her to, like, revert to a fucking infantile mental state. And then, of course, we get to the ending, as all the other episodes do. Get to see the gloriousness of this duo ballad, which, yes, is being sung by Isami and Lewis's voice actors. They are standing in the rain, taking off their shirts, holding hands, fingers interlocked.
And they're singing about how much they want to protect each other and how they're partners for life, and singing about all their intense feelings. And it's like, fellas, is it gay to take off your shirts in the rain and talk about your feelings with your bro?
No,
it's not. Damn.
And of course, it's a fantastic contrast as well to Bravern's opening, which is just playing it straight, the most super robot style, like, opening theme that is just about the titular, hero robot itself. Like, it's real fun. And that one is, by the way, sung by the voice actor for Bravern itself. So I like that they basically have this whole setup with, like, opening and endings where, most would generally, like, get a song that's, like, either pre-existing or made by, like, an existing artist, because, sponsorships from record labels is a thing in anime. Basically has been since the 80s. But I appreciate how nice and old school it is that we have these openings and endings that are being primarily delivered by our main characters.
Yes. Also, there was a live show recently.
Oh, I'm so glad you mentioned this.
Where we get to see the men take off their shirts and sing the Bravern ending theme and interlock their fingers together. And the crowd were losing their mind to it. It's peak.
Oh, yeah. It's like, as I was watching that very same clip when I saw it, and I was like, you fuckers had better hold hands at the end. Hold hands! Hold hands! Yes!
They do, in fact, hold hands.
And fortunately, since they are men, that means they will not get pregnant.
No, I'm sorry. No pregnancy here.
They already adopted an alien daughter, okay? It's fine. Yeah, that is only the third episode, and it's got so much wild shit. We're skipping episode 4 to go to 5, but it's important to note that at least with how episode 3 ends and going into the next thing we're going to talk about, it's designed to highlight, the current interpersonal relationship conflict is between our main characters. So to get into episode 5, that's the one thing that's beyond my powers. Yes, every single one of these episode titles is basically derived from a piece of dialogue, much in the same vein as Gundam X. But for context, the Allied Task Force is en route to Japan because they had a bit of a deliberation as far as like, do they head east or west in terms of who they're going to save first and on the planets. And all the while these preparations are happening and the Allied task force has now set off across the Pacific, Lulu is being looked after by Lewis, basically having to play the role of a parent, which means he's like kind of have to play double duty with like his duties as a Marine, training in the task force while also looking after Lulu while she is still mentally a baby. She tries to just shovel down an entire plate of katsu curry before having a big accident.
Oh.
And all the while, Isami is not happy anytime he looks at Lewis and Lulu is around and feels, and like you see on his expression, like a sense of disgust. There's a relationship subtext in this current dynamic I'm sure we can all glean.
Yeah.
Like someone looking at their partner and just being upset that now that there is a child in their life and it's like, you no longer have time for me.
It is exactly that. Like, bro is just a little jealous that his bro can't hang out with him anymore.
And he has to be busy working with Bravern and also wearing this like new skin tight suit for him that will not dissolve after a big battle anymore. Yeah. Apparently that's the major issue to solve. And Miu was especially proud of making that suit, by the way. Oh yeah, I didn't put it in the notes, but what you were talking about with how much like the show's creators are big fans of, are big nerds for like mecha anime, Hollywood movies, but also military stuff. There's even a conversation between Rio and Miu about the appeal of like different types of like catapults for launching planes off of aircraft carrier runways. Yeah. It's like, yeah, that's the fact that they could still get up to that even with Bravern hijacking the show into being a super robot anime. It's like, no, there's still room for this to flourish. I appreciate those details.
I also appreciate that. Like, yeah, when they announced the show and they showed the previews, I thought for sure it would be like a military show. I just didn't expect the rest, but I'm not complaining.
So currently in Lulu's development for this episode specifically, she's finally learned to speak more coherently now, or at least semi. She's graduated to not just repeating Smith's name, to now just saying very simple sentences. So how'd she learn so fast? Just watch some VHS tapes of an old tokusatsu hero show named Sparkaiser. Huh, that design sure looks familiar.
Don't think about it too much.
I mean, that emblem, looks like another thing, but it's fine. Yeah, Lulu's still getting to be innocent throughout all of this. It's fun.
I was worried about Lulu for a minute, but I ended up loving her. I feel like she is a child character done right because she's just a feral little gremlin, and that makes her so entertaining.
Like, we know how gay this show is and how much it is clearly pushing like the real relationships that it wants at the forefront, that the introduction of Lulu is not being used in a way where it's like trying to push like a different dynamic. Yeah. At least not with our existing cast as it currently is.
Yep.
But whatever. It's like Lulu grows up. She grows up real quick over the course of this series. It makes sense that she is not getting that thrust on her right now while she is still growing up and learning and being taught all of these wonderful things like tokusatsu hero shows by her American dad.
The only thing that's getting a thrust here is Isami and Smith.
Yes, because Isami is clearly going through a lot that is not really being shown to everyone else. Very, very serious the whole time, which is making it very difficult for Lewis to try and bridge that gap because obviously whenever he is with Lulu, it's just, it does not look that way. It's like, oh, now he's switching over to parent mode. And it's like, he's not that serious as everyone else is about what needs to be done because they're going to Japan to save it. You also bring up something as well regarding like the use of English, especially in this, considering this is a multinational cast of characters that we're dealing with.
Yeah, like I noticed this, especially in this show, is we've definitely come a long way like when it comes to English in anime. Because remember back in the day, anytime you hear like English phrases, it's always done in that English style. But here, all the characters say it's all phonetically correct. It doesn't sound too awkward.
Even the times when Lulu is like learning to speak and even says some English, like having its like its pronunciation be like not phonetically correct or whatever also makes sense in her case because she's still learning. So the episode goes on. continuing to lay on thick that that there seems to be a strained relationship between Isami and Lewis. Lewis is trying to figure out a way to help bridge it because he feels there's generally a big misunderstanding that Isami is carrying, as he is also trying to carry what feels like a weight on his shoulder, being Bravern's pilot and essentially being the first one going into battle. So yeah, why not go to the big man himself, the big robot, yes, he does have his own man cave in the hangar of the aircraft carrier. He's got giant-sized plastic models of Titano Striders and Sparkaiser, and all of it done with this super-dimensional 3D printer called Bravern. This is not just a super robot, this is a super nerd.
Bro is making his own giant gunpla collection. Fucking God.
It's a fun conversation, in no small part because you look at more of the details that happen in just this one scene, let alone the rest of the episode, that various theories that I will not get into, the thesis statement of, by the way, for obvious reasons, started to have a lot more credibility in my eyes because of how much time is spent on how it frames Lewis's position in these different shots in contrast with Bravern itself. Almost like it's trying to highlight that there is a bit more of a connection. Even if Lewis cannot pilot Bravern, you feel that there is something that is connecting those two in the same way that Bravern is connected to Isami. Yeah. So after that little pep talk and the foreshadowing, Lewis finally gets an idea about how he can open up to Isami. A boxing match. Clearly this will not be gay at all like everything else in the show.
Oh my God. Yeah, I'm sure it won't.
Oh, the crowd was not part of the initial plan. Everyone got wind of it, and now everyone's putting money down on this. What is supposed to be, funny enough, an intimate one-on-one has now turned into a fucking money match for the rest of the crew.
It's so good.
And of course, with this episode, I think it cements it was one of the earliest moments that cemented why Praman was one of my favorite support characters, because he gets to be the ref for this entire match. And he is explicitly going to do everything in his power to not be an honest ref because he knows what is up with this.
Also, bro has he's just completely stone-faced the entire time, and it really adds to the comedy.
Yep. Yeah, I also love as well that the other members of Isami and Lewis's military that they were partners with are giving the pep talk in the corner, and Miu is just saying whatever random boxing advice that Isami points out is bro, that doesn't even make sense. You're just saying shit. It's like you're being fucking Doc Lewis in my corner, just saying stick and move, Isami, stick and move. Join the Nintendo Fun Club today, Lewis.
Join the Bravern Fun Club.
This entire match is just a pretense to just talk to the man and clear up their misunderstandings, because in any good super robot or hero anime, sometimes the best way to communicate to someone heart to heart is with your fists, though it does get very steamy in other ways. Some illegal maneuvers, which Praman is very conveniently choosing to ignore, tackling Isami to the ground, and they're rubbing their dicks together. There's no way around it. Miu is excited by it. She has the best expression on her face, steam coming out of her nostrils, just cat's eyes. Oh, she is here for this.
Maybe you're right. Maybe she is that's the fujoshi self-insert right there.
She represents everything that viewers of this show are going to be into.
I really want to know what the fujoshi crowd for this anime is. I'm sure it must be feral.
I hope so. I mean, again, the discussion around it, at least on the Japan side, was explosive. Yeah. It got so much search keyword usage on the internet that entire year. Yeah, you're right, because this is just, after all the other gay things that we pointed out in the prior episodes, this is the gayest thing in the world in this entire anime yet. And with Praman choosing to act as the corrupt referee in this instance, Of course, other people are colluding on this match as well, with Satake and Bravern. Commander Satake is coordinating with Bravern as he comes in with an oversized boom mic and jacks the signal to air this entire lovers' quarrel of a boxing match to the rest of the fleet. It's even getting to the submarine crews, for Christ's sake. I fucking love this yaoi anime.
Everybody's got to watch this lover spat. Everyone. They have no choice.
Also, again, I just love how much it is like, part of Bravern's plan is like where he got that gigantic 3D prints or how he built it, who knows, but it's an even bigger mystery, I guess, like just what could possibly come out of it. Like, did the boom mic come from that printer? I want to know.
It probably did. I think he mentioned it or made an offhand comment. I'm not sure.
Maybe he did, yeah. I mostly remember the part where he mentions the name of the printer to Lewis and is like, you'll know about it soon enough.
Yeah.
Like, as an obvious bit of teasing. Mm-hmm. But yeah, as this is happening, the truth is finally out. Isami is trying to shoulder all of this responsibility as the hero on himself so that no one else on the team has to put themselves in danger. It still comes off as kind of insane considering the fact that it's he's doing all this while trying to basically come off as what? I'm not holding anything against you. And it's really? Because you sure keep fucking look like you're mad at me because I have to look after a kid. And the reasoning behind it is somewhat understandable because the death drives and their technology is just so out there compared to the TSs that it's in his own words, I say it's Bravern's the only thing strong enough, but he's but it's more specific to say that the death drives make no fucking sense. Yeah. That the only thing that makes as little sense as them is Bravern, which is very much, I'd say, a backhanded compliment in this regard. And the best part too is that even as this argument is happening, they are still throwing punches. Yeah. They are still beating the shit out of each other, and it comes down to being a very, very close match at the end. That both kind of knock each other down. Isami's the last one that's able to stand back up in time before the countdown finishes, and you just get the biggest pop-off out of him. Fists raised to the sky, screaming, and before he collapses over.
And then it's just and they're both just down for the count afterwards.
This is what I'm definitely talking about, where, again, he has a super robot side to him that is, he's constantly trying to keep, closed away, because that's not what his job is normally. He's a member of the Japanese military. He's got to be more serious about things, be cool, calm, and collected. But sometimes you gotta let it out.
You just gotta realize this in your heart that, no, maybe I do love super robots. Maybe I do love being a super robot pilot.
Maybe I should be more honest with my passions.
Yes, maybe I should be more honest with myself and come out of my shell.
Yeah.
I already made that joke. Never mind. I was gonna make a coming out of the closet joke, but I already made that earlier.
Well, we at least know that some positives came out of this, you know? The relationship between those two are mended now. They at least now understand. Isami now knows that it's Lewis is going to have his back. Everyone's going to have his back. And it even, I think, has opened up the relation, at least when it comes to Lulu, because she looked at that match and is Smith is strong. Isami's also strong. Fight me now, Isami! Just fucking runs into a rider kick, calls it a heat beam, to which Isami, as he gets the foot in his face and is knocked overboard, shouts, "That's not a beam."
And then Bravern is all "Isami!" and transforms, and everybody's "No, Bravern, not on the ship." And that's how the episode ends. Or
that exchange, though, this has to do with a completely different anime, but this is what it reminded me of. Have you ever heard of the anime from the early 2010s, Is It a Zombie?
I don't think I have.
The whole deal is that it's about a dude that dies and is brought back by a necromancer as as a zombie, and through a string of circumstances gets into a conflict with a magical girl and accidentally absorbs her powers. Oh. So now he's both a zombie and a magical girl.
That's funny.
The magical girl in question has a special weapon of her own. It's a chainsaw.
Oh shit.
And she has a special attack called Mistletoe Kick, which starts off looking like it is like a triple front flip into a kick, except at the very end, it's not the foot that lands on the enemy, it's the chainsaw, to which everyone that gets hit by it says, that is not a kick. And that's immediately what I think of every time I hear Lulu just shout heat beam as she goes into a full-on rider kick pose.
Yeah, you know what? That's about the same, I think. That's the same kind of joke.
Yeah. It wasn't a Pretty Cure reference, but we did bring up more magical girls in this episode.
Magical girl references are always relevant.
They deserve more. They deserve more, especially like if people can bring up stuff that isn't just Sailor Moon and Madoka until the end of time.
Hey, if you go watch Sympho Gear, that's like the perfect like in between Super Robot and Magical Girls.
Or Princession Orchestra, if you want a more pure Magical Girl show that is actually by the same creators of Sympho Gear.
I haven't watched that one, but now it's on my list.
Yeah, unfortunately it's not simulcast, so you're going to be at the mercy of like waiting for fan translator releases. But honestly, I'm fine waiting for each episode. It's been good. Anyway, back to our spoiler discussion to finish this up. After the ending, it's not always going to happen in this anime, but sometimes you get post-credit sequences. So you get a shot of how things are looking in Japan, and you get basically a nice tease of our upcoming death drive that we're going to have to fight. So if you ever wanted to hear the Japanese voice actor of Lu Bu just say Gaga P in various ways in a very, very deep masculine voice, literally Lu Bu just going beep boop like a robot. Well, now you do. This anime has it all. Go watch the rest of it.
Watch the show. If you want to also, do you want to know where things go from here and see if things get any gayer? Go watch the anime for yourself right now.
It'll go farther than you could ever realize.
Holy shit, does this anime go places? Like, no, legitimately, this is one of those shows where any episode could have been a highlight episode. We had to actually like sit down and think about which one to choose.
When it comes to like our favorite anime, it's very clear that like when you have like favorites of all time, that's usually something where like whichever is like your absolute favorite is going to stay in that position pretty much forever once you have like enough years under your belt of like engaging with like that with that entire medium. Like I already know like what my game of all time is. It's always going to be Ninja Gaiden Black, like no contest. It's been long enough that it's just like that's how it's going to be. I like that game makes me. And like when it comes to anime, for mecha anime, I've been upfront about what my favorite one is, and like it's easy to always have like your number one be very consistent, and everything below that can kind of move around depending on your mood. It's very rare ultimately for absolutely new stuff to break into that, if not your absolute favorite of all time, then at least your top three. Bravern did that for me. It shot up to number 2 on my list and actually secured a permanent spot. That almost never happens with anything for me.
That just tells you how much of a special show this is. Like, I keep mentioning it, but like, this is a show made, like I said it already, but there's so much passion that went into it. Like the people who made it just put their all into it, and you could see it everywhere, in every episode, in every detail, every joke, every moment. It's just like you don't see an anime like this come out very often, where it's clear that like the people just care so much about it, and it's just special. It's a special show.
There's a level of confidence that can be very hard to kind of like live up to, because like if you're exuding that confidence and you're not hitting it, then it can backfire horribly. But you can have moments like this where that confidence is very well deserved because everyone knew exactly what they were wanting to make with this and pulled it off.
Yeah.
And especially with how with the year that it came out. I'm trying to think again. Yeah, I think even before this, the last thing I had watched as far as modern anime was the second season of Pop Team Epic, unsurprisingly, because we love a good shitpost.
Sure
now
do.
and then. But with this anime, I have no problem just beating the same dead joke into the ground of blank saved anime. I was definitely saying it with Bravern that it saved anime because it certainly felt like it with how good it was. But it also had me thinking as well, considering the past things that Masami Obari has made. Like, he's done other Super Robot shows, but none of them on the same level of quality as this.
Yeah.
Gravion doesn't even fucking compare to this.
This is like way better than Gravion or anything he's done before.
And it always made me think that, like, if this had just come out 20 years before instead of when it did, I would not have been saying that Bravern saved anime. It would have saved the world.
I think the only problem with it coming out 20 years earlier is I don't know if it'd be as gay.
No, I mean like if it came out exactly as
okay,
it was.
yes, fair enough. If it came out, it would save the world. It would be life-changing.
George W. Bush would not have gotten his second term as U.S. president, and gay marriage would have been legalized around the world 10 years earlier. I guarantee you.
Also, I know we're like nearing the end, but can I have a small Witch from Mercury rant? Can I just make a small rant?
Sure, absolutely. We can make room for that.
Okay, I think at the end of the day, I thought Witch from Mercury is a fine 7 out of 10 Gundam show. But my main issue was, for all its talk about like same-sex relationships, how the main couple is like married by the end, it doesn't go as far as I would like it for understandable reasons. It's probably like a lot of corporate pressure. But then I watch Bravern and I'm like, holy shit, how did they get away with this? How were they allowed to do this? I don't mean this as a pun. I mean it's legitimately. Bravern is an incredibly brave anime for just what it does and the subjects. And it's not a joke. Like, we're talking about it like it's funny and hilarious, but all the gay subtext is not a joke. There is like no humor derived at, look at how gay these guys are. No.
Yeah, it gives enough proof of like what it is trying to like insinuate from the beginning that it's like, no, we totally believe this. I mean, when you have like staff posting on Twitter like images of Isami and Lewis holding doing like heart symbol with their hands, like that says everything. And even in the show, there's still plenty that highlights that there is a strong bond that is like I keep bringing this up with like the one person I remember talking to that felt like that I felt like they were basically like coming away from it almost like kind of how you came away with like describing like with the same-sex relationship in Witch from Mercury, just because there was not an official like wedding scene or something in the show's runtime itself, when again I feel like that should not have to be the only qualifier for legitimizing it, because it's like in real life there's no reason for why it's like, you know, someone may love someone but think that like marriage just is not a valid or applicable thing for like their way of life or whatever. Like, you think like that? You think like those type of relationships are not valid unless they sign like a marriage certificate, marriage registration form or something? It's like, no. Everything from like what is talked about and the fact that in any other show, like, they would try to describe these as being subtext, but as we said as much, the sub is just omitted from that word and it's just text. And I said as much, there's the straight up marriage umbrella that is drawn into the sand at one point in a much, much later episode. You cannot get more explicit than that.
It is. So, like, this is a show that just says, they're just saying subtext is for cowards.
Be loud and be proud about it. Have pride.
Exactly. Go watch this show. It's really good. We love this show so much, and you should too.
It might set too high a bar now, I think, for all the other episodes of this podcast in terms of what we talk about. But I mean, like, we literally could not wait any longer to talk about this after we got through like our first couple phases of this podcast, because of this now being in the realm of like a widely diverse array of mecha anime stuff that has nothing to do with like the big mega franchises that we have talked about. Honestly, what better way to kind of start off this phase than to talk about one of the most modern super robot anime ever, completely original, and just one that was firing on all cylinders from the word go.
Yeah, it is an incredible show.
This was still a blast all the same. Thanks for always being here, Nev. Thanks for all the listeners checking this out. And hopefully our talk about how gay this show was did not overwhelm you or possibly push you away. It better not. I think I'm going to be boldest to say that if you come away from watching Bravern and think this show is not good at the least, then I'm going to say that that's like a sign of homophobia on your part.
Yeah, what's wrong with you? Get some better taste.
Yeah, you don't want to be a bigot, right?
I mean, yes. don't be a bigot. Don't be an asshole.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah.
We'll see you for the next episode.
See you, everyone.
Take care, everyone.
Goodbye.